to our HR Supervision virtual boardroom that's been facilitated by HR Recruit and Sally Chapman. My name's Jo Thompson and I'm a consultant for HR Recruit. I'm joined today by Sally, who will introduce herself shortly. Sally's going to share her knowledge and experience about her group supervision programme. If you do have any questions or comments, then please put them into the chat box facility and we can answer the questions at the end. I'm now going to hand you over to Sally, who will introduce herself and start the boardroom. Thank you.
Hi everybody, really lovely to see you all here, and anyone who's watching the recording, because I know Jo's recording this. So first, thank Jo for inviting me to present at one of HR Recruit's boardrooms. So it's a real honour to be asked, and thank you all for coming and giving up your time today. I've got a few slides, so I cover everything, don't go off at a bit of a tangent, so I make sure that I cover everything that I want to share. And I don't know if you want to start introducing yourself in the chat while I just sort of do the sort of like little bit of introduction and get my slides up. If any of you know each other, say hi to each other and where you are in the world, you know, this sort of thing. It's always nice to know where people are dialing in from. So I'm gonna put the chat up here actually on a screen so I can, oh, from Berlin, wow. All the way from Berlin. I've been there once actually on a work thing. It was lovely, lovely city. Okay, Reading, Oxfordshire, sunny Leicester, oh, Preston. I've lived in Preston as well. Oh, and Poole and Dorset. I'm just along, so I'm in Musbury in East Devon. So if anyone's down in the Devon area or in the southwest, hello to you. Okay, let me just share my screen while you're, so there we go. So welcome. So hopefully we've kind of already done this. Can everyone see that okay? There's a thumbs up, Jo. Can you all see? Fab. So Jo mentioned there's some time for questions at the end, and hopefully we'll be able to do a bit of a short demo on how HR supervision works in practice. But as Jo said, if you've got any questions as we go through, just pop them in the chat. And hopefully Jo will be able to keep an eye on them, and then we can go back to them at the end, or if it's relevant, we can just sort of stop and talk about them there and then. So let me get started. I am not going to bore you too much with a load of waffle about me, but just a really brief introduction for those that don't know me. So I've had a really, really squiggly career into HR, and I won't go through it all, but let's just say I started as a pig farmer. There's been a pub landlady in there, and I was also a self-employed gardener, and that was all before I even got into HR. So I fell into HR like many people do, and then subsequently kind of fell in love with the profession. I spent probably 12, 13 years in HR. I worked my way up fairly quickly to a senior level. And for the most part, I absolutely loved it. I loved the organizations I worked for, the variety, the people, the learning, the pace of work, being able to make a difference. But as we all know, and probably can relate to, we don't always stay head over heels in love with something forever. So for me, there were a number of reasons that compounded into why I left HR mid-2020 and trained as a coach. So I suppose the pandemic was a final straw that broke the camel's back, or whatever that saying is. But if I reflect back on it now, a big part of it for me was that I came late into HR. So I often felt like I didn't fit in. I was constantly playing that sort of catch up because I felt I had to know everything. And that was all my own doing, that sort of kind of perfectionist, that people-pleasing aspect of me. No one told me I had to know everything. So I also wanted to make a difference, like a lot of people do, but I found it difficult to ask for that recognition. So if it wasn't forthcoming, I didn't know if I was adding value or not, or making an impact and doing a good job. And the last bit, which is probably where the supervision idea stemmed from, is that I did a number of standalone roles, and I don't think that I had enough support. And I certainly didn't ask for help enough. And that was a two-way thing. You know, sometimes the organizations didn't offer that, have that support available, but I also didn't ask for it. You know, I was too proud and sometimes a bit too ashamed. And I say that now and in hindsight and realize that seems crazy, but I didn't want to ask for help. I felt like I had to know everything. I felt I had to cope on my own. So that left me feeling quite alone with some of the issues that are going on. And as we know, those issues, the problems, the situations we deal with in HR can be really serious. They have such a big impact on people's lives. They can be all-consuming, and a lot of the time they're confidential, so you can't share them with anybody. So having moved into that coaching space in the last couple of years, I've learned loads about myself and the stories I was telling myself, and I've developed myself as a person and as a coach. I've become much more self-aware, and I now work with HR professionals. And I know this is a lot of the stuff HR struggle with because of the type of people we are. We want to help people. We want to do a good job. We want to make a difference, and we don't often look after ourselves. So the pandemic was a prime example for me, as it was for so many people in HR. We've all heard it and probably felt it, the sort of case for no HR for HR. And I spent so much time and energy making sure everybody else was all right. I didn't look after myself, and I didn't feel looked after, which kind of led to a little bit of burnout and also falling out of love with my job. And I really didn't want to fall out of love with my HR. I loved my job and I loved the profession, which is why I'm kind of still hanging out in HR, albeit in a coaching space, because I love the profession and I love the people in it. So it's this combination of things that stopped me staying in the profession. And I do know now that I did a good job. I did a blooming good job. I know that now, but I let my insecurities, my self-doubt, my reluctance to ask for help, for support, to get in the way. And I don't want that to happen to anybody else. And I've always networked in HR, but kind of in that, I suppose it was a top, not when I say supervision, it was just at that sort of top level, not very in depth, because I didn't really want to let my guard down. I didn't want to tell people that I didn't know everything. And it sounds crazy now. So since training to be a coach and having discovered supervision and how to create those safe spaces, I thought what a wonderful opportunity it would be to do this for HR professionals. So we all carry so much on our shoulders, in our hearts, in our heads. We just carry this load of stuff around with us. And I think if I'd had HR supervision when I was in the profession, it would have made a lot of difference to me. I might have even still be there, but I didn't know what it was until I trained to coach. So now today I'm founder of Shine Coaching. And what I didn't say earlier was I think that I've always coached informally, like probably many of you do in your roles, but it wasn't until I was part of a couple of really great coaching workshops with an executive in one of my HR roles that the coaching bug really got me. And that was much more of the driving force and inspiration to leave HR and train to be a coach and than all the other stuff that I've just shared. So now I coach people one-to-one, mainly HR, but not exclusively. I have many varied clients. I also collaborate with another coach, Kate, as Rebel and Shine, and we've designed an HR leadership program, group coaching program, and I've also created my own coaching model, Shine, and I've turned that into an app as well, which is a bit crazy because I don't really do tech. Anyway, so let's move on to what this is all about, which is HR Group Supervision. So now I first came up with the idea about HR Group Supervision last year. And as with anything, I wanted to check it out. I wanted to know whether it was going to work for me, work for HR professionals, and just how it was going to play out. It was just an idea. So some of you might have signed up or seen me in October last year creating this pilot group. So basically I asked for 6 people to sign up to my free pilot program. As there were only 6 spaces, they sold out within a matter of, I think, under 2 minutes, if selling out something free is what the term is. But anyway, so why did I do it for free? Well, I wanted to make sure that the program was going to add value. I wanted to get feedback from the group so I could make it really, really worthwhile and make it even better when I offer the program out to more people. I wanted to make sure it was something worthwhile for them to sign up to. So I started working with 6 lovely HR professionals in my pilot program in October 2022. And over halfway through, I knew that I just wanted to do even more of those. It was one of my favorite days of the week. I got so much from it, and they did too. So I was absolutely blown away by the group themselves, the connections they made with each other, the support that they offered each other, the knowledge and experience that they had between them. It was phenomenal and so good to see. I saw each and every one of the group grow in confidence, and that wasn't necessarily one of the aims of supervision at all. It started off being more about support, having somewhere to offload, to share that load, and see how I and the group could help. But it was by sharing in that safe space, helping each other, that the group completely flourished. So before I share the slides on what supervision is and the programs, there's a little bit of feedback on the slides here. So I asked one of the group what was being most useful for them. And if I read out what one of them said as part of that sort of her feedback, she said, definitely the confidence. I was really worried when I joined the group, especially after hearing what positions they all held. As an HR advisor in a team, my initial thought was that I was really out of my depth. I was worried that I wouldn't understand the issues, the concerns and requests for help, let alone be able to contribute. But the confidence I felt after the first session was immense. Sharing ideas, tips and confirmation from others was really helpful. So if that might be one of your questions coming here, or perhaps concerns that HR group supervision isn't for you or one of your team, take it from the group. It is for everybody. Working in HR, we all feel it. We all need to offload, whatever level we are. We all have something to contribute. We all deserve to have some time. So I also asked the group, how would they describe HR group supervision program to other HR professionals like yourselves? And this is what they said: a really valuable avenue of support, consolidation of understanding, a great way of collaborative and innovative idea sharing. And another member of the group said, I would describe the sessions as HR support group, where you can safely and securely talk with peers about situations, circumstances that are frustrating or concerning us, where we just need to voice out loud or gain some valuable insight or advice without feeling that you should know this. And lastly, I asked if they would consider 6 sessions of HR group supervision at a cost of £180 to be good value for money. And I just love this response from one of them. She said, yes, I do. When you break it down into 6 sessions, that's £30 a session. Therapy and gin costs a lot more. They went on to say, in all seriousness, this is really good value for money. So as a little final bit of feedback, I'll just like to share this. I'm hoping this is going to work. I've got a short video from Emma Briley, who was one of the people in the pilot group. So here's what she's got to say. Let's hope this works.
The HR supervision program that I've recently been part of with Sally has been an amazing experience. I have met some wonderful people who work in HR, and you know, we work so hard. And there is a lot of times where we don't feel we are supported or have someone that we can turn to and talk through certain issues or problems or concerns that we're having within our business. These sessions have been absolutely invaluable. The support, the help, the advice, and I think just the general "we get you" has been amazing. I've loved the time that I've spent together with the team that I was with, and with Sally as well, offering us a different perspective too. And those 2-hour sessions I have really enjoyed, and I hope to take part again very soon, as soon as my business allows it. So it is something I would recommend to everybody. It's incredible, it's so supportive, and it is something that a lot of HR professionals are all crying out for.
Oh, thank you, Emma. Let me just... Where's back? Is that back on the screen, Joe?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, fabulous. I never know with these things. It looks fine to me, but I never know with what anyone else can see. Okay, fabulous. Okay, so let's move on. So what is supervision? So as I said, when I left HR in mid-2020 and trained to become a coach, there wasn't any HR supervision available for me. And from the feedback and response, I've done quite a bit of research into this, asked quite a lot of people. And I don't think that's changed much now for the profession as a whole, because it's not necessarily a term that's linked with HR. So it's really well used and valued in many other professions, such as coaching, counselling, healthcare, social work, teaching, and many other professions engaged in working with people. And when you put it like that, it seems crazy that HR isn't included, because we're all about the people, we're the people function. And as it says here, and if you follow me on LinkedIn at all, you might have read from my posts, so supervision is that safe space to offload. It's an opportunity for you to share with others. It's time to recharge your batteries and look after your well-being. a chance to gain different perspective and learn from others, and an opportunity to reflect and discover new tools and techniques. That opportunity to reflect, to take stock, hone your listening, your observation skills, and develop that self-awareness. So kind of what's coming up for you when you're listening to others. It's really essential for your well-being. We carry so much for others. And that opportunity to learn from others, to share your thoughts with others, offer that support and advice, as the group have found, it's a wonderful way of building confidence. And it's also about giving time for you and becoming part of that safe community and that network. So how does it work in practice? As I said at the beginning, hopefully you've got trying to try this out in a moment. But first, let me share how it works. I've created a simple model for HR supervision based around the letter S. So S is for supervision, and then you've got 3 S's branching from it. So you've got S, the sounding board, support, and suggestions. And then there's also an overarching S covering all of them, which is sharing. Although it's not shown in the model, it is integral to its value. So sounding board, we just sometimes need to get some stuff out of our head, get things off our chest, just to help us feel so much better. I remember working in an organization, and there was an employee, I think there's always one. I think I've been through every process with grievance, disciplinary, absence management. And at each meeting, she would bring her imaginary friend with her, and her imaginary friend would sit on her shoulder throughout the meeting, and she would confer with her imaginary friend. And there wasn't really anything I could do about this, but I just sometimes needed to shout and tell somebody about it, and shout about how crazy my world was at times. So that was just an off the cuff sort of like example about a sounding board. There are lots of things that we need to get out of our heads, but with support, there are times when we need to share so we can validate how we're feeling and get some support from others. So this might be something, if you're totally frustrated at managing a sickness absence, you know, you're following that due process and you can already see how it's going to pan out and what the outcome is likely to be. But you just need somebody to say, oh, I've been there, I know what that feels like. It will pass. Is there anything I can help you with? Or it might be that you're already supporting somebody else yourself, whether that's an employee or supporting a manager to support an employee through like a bereavement, a redundancy, a settlement agreement, a relationship breakup. All of this takes its toll. And sometimes we just need to have some support for what we're carrying for others. And then finally, suggestions. So sometimes we kind of get stuck. It might be with a situation, it might be with a person, it might be with ourselves, and we don't know what to do. And we could really do with some advice and suggestions on how to move forward. So something that comes to mind is if you were coming up against a tricky manager over and over again, they maybe weren't taking any of your advice and not being able how to figure out a way to work well with them. So that's where other people's perspectives and ideas are always welcome. So it's been really interesting to see how this has worked in the pilot group. And I've also got 2 groups running concurrently at the moment, the variety of things that people are bringing to sessions. So a few examples would be somebody who is managing an employee with a cancer diagnosis, but the employee doesn't want any support, it's very resistant. There's a manager with repeated behavior issues. There's a general feeling of being completely overwhelmed. There's a practical one around pay and a cost of living query. Someone came in completely drowning in emails. One was talking about creating a people strategy that they needed to present to their board. There was someone talking about a disability claim looming. And then there was one around general recruitment struggles, which I think we can probably all relate to at the moment. So how it works is we all check in with each other at the beginning of the session. Then each of the group takes it in turns to share what's on top of their mind or the thing that's giving them the biggest headache at the moment. So there's 10 minutes allowed for each person in the group. So everybody gets an opportunity to share. The idea is that the person will say at the beginning whether they're looking for a sounding board, support, or suggestions, or it might be that you don't know, or a combination of all 3. So interesting enough, as the pilot group and the groups are evolving, it is often a combination. So yes, they want to get something off their chest, but they also require some support, some validation, and then some suggestions are also welcome to help them move forward. So as each person shares, The group will then listen and respond accordingly. I facilitate and I ask each person if they want me to share any observations and if there's any tools or techniques or tips that I've found useful. And through sharing the group, everyone gets to pick up a variety of different helpful tips that they too can use. And then there's always the option to change your mind. So if you come in just wanting to have a bit of a rant and then actually think, oh, do you know what, how can I move forward from this? You can always ask the group for suggestions. And then we end the session, I've got so many S's in my mouth, with any reflections and learnings that we've taken from the group, any actions that we might want to take away, because that's always important to actually get something that is really practical and actionable. And then if any of the group you want any of the group to hold you to account, so you can come back in 2 weeks' time and they say, you know, how did you get on? You said you were going to do that. How did you get on with it? Do you want to talk about it? Okay, so just a few more slides. Thank you for being patient with me. So how is all of this going to benefit you and your organization? So one of the things I know from my own experience, I didn't really, apart from my CIPD, I didn't really invest much in my own development. I didn't invest much in my own well-being, definitely, let alone ask the organisation to pay for it. So I spent loads of time supporting others, though, investing in their own development, which I'm sure is familiar with you. We do spend a lot of time helping others out. So I think supervision should really be part of HR's CPD and well-being, which is why I've put together a bit of a business case template for you, with the information, and Joe will share it with you if you want it, which you might need if you want to use and adapt it to persuade the budget holder or your line manager to fund this for you. So instead of funding it yourself. So I shared the business case template with Joe. Oh, I've already mentioned that. Okay, or it's on my LinkedIn featured page. So in short, the slides kind of shows the benefits for you. So it's going to enhance your well-being, help you build your resilience and confidence so you can support yourself and others even better. Gives you that opportunity to build and grow a trusted network of peers who you can explore ideas and solutions and key challenges to in that safe space. And you'll learn how to facilitate small groups by watching how the groups work together, as well as gaining a variety of useful tools and resources and techniques, and take these back to your organisation. And being part of the group, it will provide you with that essential support and reassurance from people who get it. It also gives you that much needed time and space to take stock, as well as development for opportunity to learn and new approaches, different ways of doing things from like-minded professionals. So in practice, how does it work in actual practice? Each session is 1.5 hours long, but the first session is 2 hours. So we've got time for introductions, and it's done fortnightly, as weekly felt too frequent, and it's unlikely you'd be able to spare that amount of time every week, and monthly felt too far apart, especially if you're carrying something that's really troubling you. And for supervision, we keep the group size small. So if we have too many, not everyone gets that opportunity to share, can feel a bit overwhelming, and that small group helps create that safe space. We do some contracting at the beginning of the first session, which also is why we do a 2-hour session then. And the contracting bit is just around agreeing how we're going to work together, what we need from ourselves and what we need from the group. There's also that opportunity to check in each session and then reflect at the end. I offer programs at different times of the day and week, hopefully to suit everyone's commitments. How much is it going to cost? It's £180 for 6 sessions of 90 minutes online group supervision as part of the small group. Oh, I've just seen a thing saying can't hear me. Is that just? Oh, you can. Is that all right? Is everyone else here?
I can hear you, no problem, Sally.
Okay, all right, okay, sorry about that. So, and yeah, so all led and facilitated by me. For those funding it for themselves, I can offer a 3-part payment plan if you like. This has been taken up by a number of people on my current programme. And we use my 3S. Yes, Peter, that is £180 per person for the 6 sessions. So we use the 3S supervision model as part of that contracting process, and we check in if that's working as you go along. So one of the things that the pilot group requested was to have a whole session, a whole hour and a half, focused on imposter syndrome and building confidence. And so it was just a case of agreeing as a group what they wanted, and we just did a session on that. So I think this is nearly my last slide. So I've got, as I said, currently got 2 programs running on both on a Thursday. There's one in the morning and one later in the afternoon. So the next program that starts is Thursday, the 2nd of March at 1:30 p.m. There's currently got 2 people booked on, so there's only 4 left. So as I mentioned, the first session's 2 hours, just to include that introductions and contracting. Then the remaining 5 sessions, 1.5 hours fortnightly. So I chose different times of the day to hopefully meet people's needs. And you'll note so far that they were all on a Thursday. And so if I briefly explain my thought process for that. So I always find that Monday, when you turn up at work, is a really manically busy day. Some emergency crops up you have to deal with. And the last thing you want is an hour or 2 blocked out in your calendar when basically you're trying to firefight and take some action. So then I thought Tuesday's that kind of spillover day from Monday, all the things you didn't get done because of your manic Monday. Wednesday to me felt like a real doing day, so you can get a lot of stuff done. Friday, you might want to be wrapping up for the weekend, which left me with Thursday. So you've had most of the week. There's probably something on your mind that is sitting stubbornly with you that you'd ideally like to ditch before you head off into the weekend. And if you work out a way forward with it on the Friday and Thursday, you've still got, Friday and to do something about it. And then you can go off into your weekend, hopefully with a bit of a clearer head. So, but that said, I've also had requests from people who either don't work Thursdays or it's just not a good day for them with other commitments. So the next program is going to be program 4, starts on Wednesday, 19th of April. So that's just after the Easter break at 11 o'clock. Already got 1 place booked on that. And if neither of those dates work for you, but you're interested in joining a program, do connect with me on LinkedIn or pop in the chat and I'll look to create another group. Should there be enough demand for it in the next couple of months. I've also created an HR supervision referral and returners program, which you can see at the bottom of the slide there, because at least 2 of the people on my current program were referred to from my pilot group. And 1 person from the pilot group found it so valuable that they signed up for a paid program. So what I want to be able to do is give something back to people who are supporting me and my programs, but also they also realize the value in which. So that's where I wanted to do this referral and returners. So how it works is that if you've been on one of my programs and refer somebody in your network to sign up for a program, once they've paid in full, you'll either offer the equivalent of a £25 gift voucher, or you can have the choice of having 1 free session out of another program. So you get 6 sessions for the price of 5. And if you return to a program after you've already been on one of my programs, you can then sign up at the reduced price of 6 sessions again for the price of 5. So there's a paid space on the booking form in Eventbrite for you if you have been referred, so you can pop that person's name who might have referred you. So nearly there. So if it's piqued your interest, something you might find valuable and want to sign up, just choose a program to suit you, sign up via the links with Joe's got in the email. I'm sharing the slides as well, so the links are on there too. You reserve your place through Eventbrite, but as I mentioned, there is a cost to the program, but I don't take the money through Eventbrite because they charge like another £14 plus for the privilege, and I don't want to have to pass that cost on to people. So, and lots of people want their organizations to be invoiced, so they don't necessarily have the functionality to pay at the time, and it just increases the price for everyone. So once you reserve your place, I then send you a welcome email, the calendar invites, further invoice information, and then your invoice. And if you want your organization to pay for it and need to go through like a procurement process, I can do that. Or also if you want to pay by installments, let me know. And spaces are on first come, first served, and payments required to secure your space. And I also have a waiting list on Eventbrite, so that will just keep you updated on future programs. If you want to just sit on the waiting list, or if these dates don't work for you, you can sign up there. So that is enough from me. Those are all of the details that are on the slides. And links. I think we've probably got about 15 minutes left, Joe, is that right? About 15 minutes. So I don't know if we've got any.
Yeah, about 15.
Any question? Oh, does the VAT's not applicable? I'm not VAT registered, Sarah, so there's no VAT. So that's the total cost there. So I will stop sharing. And just see if there's any questions, if anyone either wants to shout out or if They would like to go through a bit of a demo now and see how that might work in practice. What's everyone's thoughts? Anyone got any other questions first? More than happy for people. A demo would be great. Okay, Sam. So we could either, if somebody has something they want to share, or it could be just an example off the top of their head of something they might want to. I'm more than happy to take somebody's. I don't want to go and I don't want to, share something from me. But if somebody has something that's on top of their mind or they think of, anyone got a hand up, or would you like me to share something and show you how it might work? Can't see many faces. Okay, I haven't got any rushing to share. So that's what I say, when we create these really small safe spaces, that's part of our contracting. We get to know people, and it sometimes feel a bit daunting if you suddenly need to share something, but actually by creating that safe space with a small group of 6 of us, you'd be amazed what we get through in an hour and a half. So if I share something, so as an example of something recent, okay, that somebody came to supervision with, they basically came wanting some support. They came really, really tearful. I just want you to have a listen to this now and think how you might respond. And you can either respond by speaking out in the group here, or you can pop something in the chat. So they said they were feeling something that experienced burnout to them. They were just not finishing any tasks. They were really completely organized. The whole organization was just feeling like they just kept flitting from one task to another. They said they'd taken 3 days off the previous week, but then they said, I feel that was a real mistake because now I'm just feeling completely behind. They'd also been onboarding their new manager and really, really struggling and worried that manager was going to think that they weren't as efficient and performing as well as they'd been led to believe. So they were completely tearful, didn't know what to do, just losing all sorts of confidence. So when this person shared this information, what we do then is we go around the group. Now, I don't know if people would like to share in the chat, if you were sat in a small group of people and I was explaining this to you, what would you be saying to me? What would what would your response be? It's okay to feel overwhelmed, but let's work out how we can stop you getting in that cycle. Thank you, Caroline. Yes. Recognize the triggers. Yes, that was definitely something we discussed. I would likely ask questions about the bigger picture, trying to get them talking about the whole, I've got like a little thing, a whole task at hand. I was recently in the same position and I've resigned a few days ago, but I did look at why I was feeling like that, my issue, and spoke to my manager. Well, that's good that you spoke to your manager, Michaela, and I hope you found something new and something exciting. How long have you been feeling like this? Is it only at work? It's okay to feel like this. What are your triggers? Describe how you prioritize. Perhaps list what main priorities. Thinking about how critical tasks are, or just gain some traction by completing. Has anything changed for them if they used to be so well? What support do you want? Yeah, definitely. What support do you want? So can people see how that conversation might play out as a group of 5 other HR professionals sat there that will have felt, given that we're getting stressed about lots of tasks, I'd be focusing on what they're really wanting to achieve. So by sharing how that you understand and can empathize how you're feeling, how you might have been in that same situation and able to offer. And then we get down to maybe what it is, but also knowing that you're not alone. That was a really big part for this person, is that actually I can't share this with my new manager, because how can I go to my new manager when I'm feeling really tearful and what I'm trying to do is onboard them, and actually I just feel like I'm not performing. And one of the things that the outcome, I think somebody in the group said, is that actually your new manager's probably taken up 20% of your week this week, and in the lead up to your new manager starting, you'll have been preparing for them arriving anyway. So it's no wonder that you aren't getting as many things done, because you've been preparing for this new manager and this new onboarding. So we tend to be really, really hard on ourselves. So there was definitely a lot of support there. Perhaps help break the list down. Brilliant. So loads of really great tips. Oh, thank you, Michaela. Hopefully see you. I'm not sure if you've left now, but thank you, Michaela. Thank you. Thank you for coming along. So if I just share one more example to give you another hand, just something completely different. Somebody came in wanting some suggestions. So I'll give you a little bit of background context. They're an HR manager. Their organization has doubled in size over in the last 2 years. And as part of that, they have recruited a business operations director. So between the board and them, they've recruited this business operations director who doesn't have any HR experience, but is line managing the HR manager. And the added complication was that this new recruit, this ops director, was a friend of somebody on the board. It all felt a little bit, and they all got on really, really well. But this ops director was basically started to becoming too much involved in the HRM's workload. So when they were dealing with whether it was ER cases or any communication, they were basically trying to be the messenger, the go-between between the HRM and then up to the board. And it was becoming kind of like Chinese whispers. The messages were getting confused because obviously the ops director didn't have all the background. They were just taking the message forward. And then the workload was getting doubled because they'd be asked by the ops director what was going on, and then the board would only get half the answer because they'd only just got the messenger bit, not the background bit, and then they'd still need to know what was going on elsewhere if need be, if they needed to be involved. This person got on really well with this ops director, as a working relationship. They got on well, and they could see that the ops director was basically probably wanting to have an impact, it was a new role. They were probably wanting to show their impact and add value. So they just wanted to have some suggestions really on how they might be able to move that one forward. Does anybody want to pop in the chat or say out loud what they what comes up for them then? We might have been in the same situation. I think one of the conversations was that what was I going to say? That I was just reading the chat at the same time, just shows I can't multitask at all. That lots of people have said in the groups that what they've had experience of being managed by operations, either operations or finance, and they just kind of don't get it. So it's a really interesting one that I don't know if anyone here is managed by ops or finance, and how sometimes that doesn't always always work as well as it could. What was that, Caroline? You are okay. So you might, I don't know if you can sort of relate to any of that. So have an open discussion. Yes, we talked about having those discussions. Yeah, have control of the narrative. Yeah. Agree ways of working, agree what reporting metrics can be shared, and approach the board together. Might structure a conversation. Yes, definitely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, make them a cup of tea and be able to verbalise. Yeah, suggestions, including HR to make it board level. And thank you. Yeah, I mean, these are the sort of conversations we have. But as I sort of was talking to as I went through how we describe it, we kind of, when we're just holding on to whatever thing that we're dealing with. And that's something that you're thinking, well, I can't really share this with anyone in my organization because it involves everybody in my organization, really. It involves the organization. Where can I share it to get some really tangible suggestions from people that get it? And they went away with some really good suggestions. So I'm kind of open to any questions. If anyone's got any question. Oh, open door, the managed critical people function. Coming through a scary step. Maybe ask questions of the board. Yeah, stakeholder engagement questions are the hardest when you're standalone. Yeah. Yeah, I must admit, I'm lucky. I have a very people-centered FD and MD. Oh, great. Lovely to hear that. Okay, has anyone got anything that they would like, any burning questions, anything they would like to ask? No, nothing, no questions at all. Well, thank you. I'll let Jo close off, but thank you for your time and coming along. I hope you found it interesting. I think Jo's going to post something in LinkedIn, so then you can get copies of things, but she'll let you know about that. If you want to, if you're not connecting with me on LinkedIn, please do. I'd love to keep, in touch. And if you've got any questions that crop up after we finish, just do. Email all the details are on the slides, and Jo will pass them along. And thank you. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Sally. Thanks very much. It's been really informative. So as Sally said, I will send out an email this afternoon to everybody that's registered. There was some information that Sally's provided, so you can let me know if you want a copy of that, and also I'll put Sally's details on there. Next week we've got 2 more boardrooms. We've got one on Tuesday at 12:30, which is called Mental Health in the Current Climate, and then on Thursday again at 12:30 we've got one called Getting Redundancy Right. So I will send out that correspondence this afternoon. So all I'd like to say is thanks very much, everybody, for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it, and a massive thanks to Sally for all your help and effort. Thank you.